and suddenly, this possibility. She turned over the 6 sheets, all dappled with that critical name, and everywhere the first letter had the form of an E. For a time she walked across the room with a hand pressed upon her heart. She spent a whole day pondering this change, weighing a letter of inquiry that should be at once discreet and effectual, weighing too what action she should take after the answer came. She was resolved that if this altered spelling was anything more than a quaint fancy of Fanny's, she would write forthwith to Mr. Snooks. She had now reached a stage when the minor refinements of behaviour disappear. Her excuse remained uninvented, but she had the subject of her letter clear in her mind, even to the hint that
circumstances in my life have changed since we talked together.
But she never gave that hint. There came a third letter from that fitful correspondent Fanny. The first line proclaimed her the happiest girl alive. Miss Winchelsea crushed the letter in her hand, the rest unread, and sat with her face suddenly very still. She had received it just before morning school, and had opened it when the junior mathematicians were well underway. Presently she resumed reading with an appearance of great calm, but after the first sheet she went on reading the third without discovering the error.
Told him frankly, I didn't like his name.
The third sheet began.
He told me he did not like it himself. You know, that sort of sudden frank way he has.
Miss Winchelsea did know.
So, I said, couldn't you change it? He didn't see it at first. Well, you know, dear, he had told me what it really meant. It means 7 Oaks, only it has got down to Snooks. Both Snooks and Noakes, dreadfully vulgar surnames though they be, are really worn forms of 7 Oaks. So I said, even I have any of my bright ideas at times. If it got down from 7 Oaks to Snooks, why not get it back from Snooks to 7 Oaks? And the long and the short of it is, dear, he couldn't refuse me, and he changed his spelling there and then to St. Oaks for the bills of the new lecture. And afterwards, when we are married, we shall put in the apostrophe and make it St. Oaks. Wasn't it kind of him to meet that fancy of mine when many men would have taken offence? But it is just like him all over. He is as kind as he is clever, because he knew as well as I did that I would have had him in spite of it had he been 10 times Snooks. But he did it all the same.
The class was startled by the sound of paper being viciously torn, and looked up to see Miss Winchelsea white in the face, and with some very small pieces of paper clenched in one hand. For a few seconds they stared at her stare, and then her expression changed back to a more familiar one.
Has anyone finished number 3?
She asked in an even tone. She remained calm after that, but impositions ruled high that day. She spent 2 laborious evenings writing letters of various sorts to Fanny, before she found a decent congratulatory vein. Her reason struggled hopelessly against the persuasion that Fanny had behaved in an exceedingly treacherous manner. One may be extremely refined and still capable of a very sore heart. Certainly Miss Winchelsea's heart was very sore. She had moods of sexual hostility in which she generalized uncharitably about mankind.
He forgot himself with me. But Fanny is pink and pretty and soft, and a fool. A very excellent match for a man.
And by way of a wedding present she sent Fanny a gracefully bound volume of poetry by George Meredith, and Fanny wrote back a grossly happy letter to say it was all beautiful. Miss Winchelsea hoped that someday Mrs. Sennox might take up that slim book and think for a moment of the donor. Fanny wrote several times before and about her marriage, perusing that fond legend of their ancient friendship, and giving her happiness in the fullest detail.